Hey y'all, this is Dina. Welcome to my channel. Okay, so tonight I am going to show you guys how I make a small tote bag. This is not one like I normally make. This is going to be a smaller one. But I have made lots of tote bags in the past, and I've sold them like at my craft fairs. I've sold them like to coworkers and people like that. But anyway, yeah, I've learned how the technique, and usually I add a lot more different colors on this, but this is just going to be a small one. And then if you guys want to see me make a larger one, I can do that. So the first thing I did is I went ahead and I cut 2 pieces of fabric. I've got 2 here, and these measure, let me see the inches, 2 inches by 12. Those are going to be for the trim for the top. This is 12 inches by 24. And these are going to be for the straps. And then I'll still have to cut a lining, but I just wanted to get going and show you how to do this. I'm going to try to do this and stop and start my camera so that way my video is not too long. I don't want to lose your interest. So yeah, so let's just get started. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my piece of fabric that measures 12 by 24, and I am going to take my pieces of trim that I cut, the 2 by 12 pieces, and I'm going to sew 1 piece to each end. Make sure you turn your fabric right sides together. You can pin this if you want. Let me see, where'd my chicken go? Got my chicken. Okay, and I'm just gonna pin this up, try to get it as straight as I can, and then I'm gonna sew this on. Okay, you don't have to pin if you don't want to. I'm just going to pin it. I don't want anything to really move. So what I'm going to do is right sides together. I'm just going to attach this to my main fabric using a straight stitch. I didn't back stitch at the beginning like I normally do, but I'm not really worried about it. That's going to be inside of my seam anyway. You can back stitch if you want. You're just going to sew this straight across. And watch me, it's such a habit to back stitch. There I go. Okay, so I got one side on. And as you see here, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to do the other end now. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of attach it without pinning it this time. And here we go. I always just line my fabric up with the edge of my presser foot. To me, I just use that as a guide when I'm doing this. So, makes it like 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my trim on both ends. As you see, it's both ends. Now I'm gonna get this ironed down, and then I'll show you what I will do next. Okay, so the next step after I have sewed on my trim on both ends, I have put my fleece. I am using Fusible fleece. It is fusible on one side. So you see I've already ironed it. So that way it will stay in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a seam all the way around the whole diameter of this bag. That way it holds my batting in place. And then we'll start putting the bag together and it'll start turning into something. So yeah, let's just get going on that. Gonna move you over so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna take my bag and I'm just gonna start at the top. Okay, I'm gonna back you up a little bit. I don't want to bump. Here we Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so I am going to just start at the top. You can start wherever you like. And I'm just gonna sew like maybe a little tiny seam real close to the edge all the way around because I want to hold my batting in place. I'm sure there's many ways to make tote bags, but this is my way. So yeah, I've made a lot of different kind of tote bags. Some of them I do add zippers to and pockets, but this is just gonna be a basic tote bag. It's just gonna be a small one. So I've got it sewed on the top, and I'm just gonna keep going down, and then I'm gonna trim it up because I didn't trim it up very good. So I'm gonna trim it up when I'm done. I love, love, love this fabric. I love the cherries. Keep going. All the way around. To the other end. I've got my down feature on my machine. If you have a down feature on yours, this is a good time to use it. That way you kind of can keep your needle where you want it. So I'm sewing a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch to the side. Okay, one more side. Get that down feature going again. Let's sew on this one last side, and then I'll square this up. Leave me a comment below if you guys sew. I know I have a lot of paper crafters that make comments, and some people say I do both. Yeah, just leave me a comment. What's your specialty, you know? I kind of like to switch off and on. I went through a whole phase where all I did was sew, and then I got into more paper crafting, and now I kind of just like both, so. Okay, so there we go. I've got it sewed all the way around so my batting will stay in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this down really good, and then I'm going to sew a seam. I'm going to sew a seam right here and on the top. So let me get this pressed down, and then I will show you what is next. Brought my ironing board in here today, so I don't have to keep going to my other room, because I usually don't leave it in here unless I'm sewing a lot, because it gets in my way. And if you've seen my room tours, you know I don't want to block up my closet, but when I sew, that's what I have to do. Okay, so I've gave it a good press, and now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to sew right below the seam and above the seam. I just want to kind of give it a good little top stitch there. You don't have to do both. You can do just the top, the bottom, whatever you like to do. Okay. I'm gonna get that. That looks pretty good. As you see, I gave it that top stitch. Now I'm gonna do the one on the top of where the red is. And I'm just gonna put it right above. Just kind of put it where you want it. You don't even have to do this if you don't want. You could actually quilt this if you wanted to quilt it. It's up to you. How you want to do your bag. Okay. So now I've got 2 stitch, one below and one above. So I'm going to do the other end, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have gave it a press. I have trimmed off my edges, just left a little bit. And now let me show you how I'm going to start putting this together. So you want to put pretty sides together. And you want to try to make sure that your trims, like my red and white, matches up on the edge. And let me see if I can turn it this way. You want to make sure it all lines up the best that you can. That way your seams are nice and pretty when you're done. So you're going to pin it together. Make sure you get this other side. Just make sure you get them as close as you can. If they don't come out perfect, it's a homemade bag and it's okay. Just do the best you can. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down each side. Okay, so let's just get you over here and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. So I got my stuff ready. Take out my pen. I'm going to hold it in place. Now, for this one, I am going to backstitch because this is a top. It's got some threads on there. Don't worry about those. They're going to be underneath anyway. You can trim them up when you're done if you want. So like I said, I just lined my presser foot up with close to the edge, about 1/4 of an inch on each side. Okay. I'm going to flip it over. Now I'm going to do the other side. And you can take a look at this, make sure it looks pretty good there. Off a little bit, nothing to worry about. Close enough. Okay, here I go on this one. I'm going to get my edges there as good as I can get them. Okay, back stitch. I'm going to go down the other side here, straight down. Okay. Good. Okay, now the next step, what we're going to do is we need to box our corners. So I'm just going to trim the top of my threads. I don't worry about what's underneath, but I don't want these sticking out because they'll be in my way. You can flip it over and you can make sure that your sides are looking good. See, that's not too bad. Looks pretty good. So you can kind of see. So, okay, so now how I box my corners, I'm going to show y'all this, y'all. Okay, how I box my corners. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, this is the bottom, these are the sides, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it at a point. And I'm going to just probably go up about maybe 2 inches. So I'm going to line it up here on my mat, go up 2 inches, and let me grab my other ruler, one that's not so long. Oh, there went one. I'm going to grab my pen. So you're going to line it up and you're going to make sure your seam is in the center. And then I'm just going to go up 2 inches for mine. And then I'm going to draw myself a line. If you're mass producing these, you kind of learn you don't really have to draw a line, but if you've never made it before, it's good to draw a line. So I've got one. I'm going to pin that, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. Get it in the center. Okay. Line up the point on the line on your mat. Move it up to 2 inches. And draw myself a line. Doesn't matter what kind of pen you use. It's going to be inside anyway. So let me just make sure. Yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and sew straight across on both sides, okay? Okay, sorry about moving y'all around. I'm trying to let y'all see this as much as you can. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to pop this under my machine, make sure it's good and flat. I'm going to take out my pin, line it up on the blue, on the line, whatever color you've used. Head on in, make sure you backstitch. It's real important to backstitch here. Okay, real important for you to backstitch. In fact, it doesn't hurt to reinforce several times. Because there's a lot of wear and tear on the bottom of your bag, and this is actually going to be the bottom. You can choose to open your seams if you want. For this little tote, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to back stitch and go right off the end. Now, when you get this part all sewed, when you've blocked off your corners, go down about a ½ inch and you can go ahead and cut it off. Now I'm going to do it to the other side, and then we're about halfway done. This is so simple. Who needs to go to the store and buy a tote bag? If you've got material, you've got a sewing machine, if you've got supplies to make it. It's good. Okay, I'm gonna get over here. I'm gonna do my back stitch, real important. Okay, there we go. Okay. So now I'm going to flip it inside out. Let's see what it's going to look like. And then we'll do the lining. Look, y'all. How cute is that? When I'm done, I'll give it a really good press. But yeah, that's going to be really, really cute. It's going to be cute. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to work on before I do the lining is I'm going to work on the straps. So I've got my fabric. And I'm going to use the cherries, and this measures 3 inches, and I've just made these like probably about 14 inches or 15 inches long because you want to make sure that they're going to be long enough. You can always cut them down. If you've cut them too short, then you'll have to start over. So it's better just to have them a little long and cut them down. So anyway, so let me just show you what my next step is going to be with these straps. Okay, so what I'm going to do my straps is I'm going to give it a good press, make sure it's nice and flat, and I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to press it down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it back up, and I'm going to fold each sides in toward the center. That will make the middle of your strap approximately a little more than 3/4 of an inch, maybe close to an inch. I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to put my batting in the middle, and then I'm going to iron it on down. So I'm just going to stick, I just cut like 3/4 of an inch to put inside here. It's too long, it's okay. I'm going to cut it off when I'm done. So now that I've got it inside of my fabric, I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to give this a good press down, meeting my seams on the side. And then once I'm done ironing both of these and getting these prepared to sew, then I'm going to sew a seam down each side, sealing this up, and then I'll trim it off. Okay, so I'm going to finish the other one. We'll move back over to the sewing machine. Okay, so I have already gone ahead and I finished ironing my straps And as you see, I've gone ahead and sewed a seam down both sides on both of my straps. And I did those off camera just to save time, but you will sew a seam on each side and just to secure it and then trim them off so they're even. Now we're going to do the lining. I'm just using the fabric that I have on hand, so I'm going to go ahead and put cherries on the inside too. This fabric is cut at 12 inches by 28 inches. You have to remember you need to allow for the extra 2 inches or so that you have on the top for the trim that we added. So I'm just going to put this under my sewing machine. I'm going to sew a seam down each side. Okay, got one side, and then we're going to quickly sew the other side. Make sure your fabric is straight. Sew down the other side. Now, you need to remember, and I almost missed this, that this is the lining, and you want to make sure you leave a little gap in here so that way you can turn your bag in the end, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But sew down just a couple of inches, 3 or 4 inches, back stitch, then lift up your presser foot and drag it down a couple of inches because you want to be able to turn your bag. And then this is the part where we will sew that closed in the end. So I've dragged it down, sewed a few stitches, and now I'm going to finish it off. Okay, I'm coming to the end, and there we go. Okay, so let me get this all trimmed up and we'll show you what's next. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your lining, just like you did the outside, and about 2 inches down, you're going to sew a seam straight across, and I'm just going to eyeball it. You can go measure it if you want. And my scissors. Normally when I make my bags, I make them in lots of different colors. I don't know if you've watched any of my videos, but I tend to match things up that you wouldn't think would match, and it ends up working out. So anyway, okay, now I'm gonna sew the other side. Go up about 2 inches. It looks like about 2. You can batch stitch at the beginning and the end on these if you like. I really recommend that you back stitch mainly on the outside, but if you want to go ahead and back stitch on this too. I did not do that this time. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how we're going to put this bag together and get it finished up. So I've got all my seams. There's my opening for us to be able to turn it. And yeah, let's get going on this. We're going to come to the home stretch. Okay, so we're going to put our bag together. So what you're going to do is you have the outside of your bag turned outward, the lining part, and this is where we're going to turn it. You're going to place the pretty side down in the bag and your lining, and you're going to line it up. Make sure you got your side seams lined up. Okay. Make sure you get these side seams lined up and pin them. You want them to stay in place. Okay, I'm going to get both of my side seams. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so now that I've got my bag down in there, you can see this is the inside of the bag, and it's going to flip over inside. So Now I'm going to take my straps, and my straps ended up measuring 17 inches. Yeah, 17 inches. So I'm going to take my strap and I'm going to have it folded, and I'm going to make sure that it's not twisted. And I'm just going to place it up inside my bag. And pin it. Just I go over about 2 or 3 inches from each side. Yeah. Try to make sure you have them lined up together. You want to make sure that your straps come out good, and this is one that I do measure, so I'm going to just double check too. I've got it on the 3-inch, and it's the same way. So now I've got those two down there. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put my other strap down on the other side, in between the lining and the outer part of your bag. And I'm going to just hold it down. I'm going to pin it together to keep it in place. And do that to the side. Make sure that strap is tucked down in there. Make sure it's not twisted. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way around the top. I'm going to move you over so you can see we're coming to the final stretch. Sorry y'all if this has been a little long. Usually it takes me probably about 2 hours to make a really good bag. Okay, I'm gonna take this off so I have room to work. I'm gonna start over here on one of the seams, slide it up in here in the arm of my machine, and I'm just gonna go down here now. I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning and end of these. So I'm going to use my down feature and back stitch. There we go. I'm going to go I'm lining up my presser foot with the edge of my fabric. Make sure your straps are even. Make sure they're not turned. All the way around. You can batch stitch over those, but we are going to top stitch when we're done. So it's going to have that extra stitching on it. Make sure my strap didn't turn. One time I was making a bag and I sewed it with the straps twisted. Oh my goodness, and I was down to the last fabric. Oh my goodness, I had to pick the whole top out. And this is a 2.5-inch straight stitch length, you know? So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in that hole that's over on the side, and I'm going to pull my bag through the hole and get this turned the correct way. Don't leave your hole too small. You'll have to be tugging too much. So we're almost there. There we go. We got it. Got a little string there. I'm going to get that trimmed. Okay. So there we go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch up the hole, and then I'm going to press this before I do the top stitching. So I'm going to stitch this little hole up here that we left open so I could turn it. And then we're going to iron and top stitch. You can hand stitch this if you want. I don't really see a need. I just think it's easier on the machine and it's inside anyway. Okay. Now I'm going to give this a quick press and we're on the home stretch, y'all. I'm going to get this inside here, poke down inside. And now let me get this ironed. We'll finish it up. Okay, so now we're on the home stretch, y'all. I've kind of pressed it down a little bit so it kind of holds it in place. And I'm just going to sew a little nice top stitch all the way around. Make sure your lining is folded. You don't want it poking up at the top. Line your presser foot up with the edge of your fabric or however large you want your seams to be. And we're going to slowly go all the way around. This is real important. You want to top stitch this so it holds all your lining down. So I like to just take it, kind of keep pressing it under. Make sure it's good. That's why I ironed it a little bit, because then it keeps everything down. Ironing when you're sewing is super important in my opinion. Let me get that string off. We'll have a few strings we're going to have to trim. Okay. Almost there. Then we'll iron and snip off a few more threads and we'll be done. Try to sew as straight as you can. Nobody's perfect. If you don't get it totally straight, it's okay. Just do the best you can. I'm not always the straightest sewer, but I don't give up. I keep trying. Back stitch at the end. And let's pull this baby out. Okay. Look, y'all, how cute is that? Okay, let me yarn it up again, trim off the threads, and I'll show you what our final product is. Also, here is the finished product. I sewed this little strap right here to hang on the handle. I like to hang something off on the handle. But yeah, I think it turned out really nice. You can see what it looks like inside. Sorry for the glare, y'all. I'm trying to do this so you could see. But anyway, there is our finished bag. So I hope that you like this. I'm sorry if it was a bit long. Sewing a tote bag is pretty lengthy. But anyway, hopefully you got the idea of how to do this. And I hope that you will give it a try. And yeah, I hope I didn't lose you. I hope I kept you into the end so you could see the final product. But I think the tote bag is pretty cute. So anyway, well, thank you so much for watching and subscribing. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And you guys have a great night. Bye, y'all.